Hey guys,
Rita, how are
Hey,
you?
Rita.
I'm good. How are you?
We are great. Thank you for rescheduling with us a few times. Appreciate it. Appreciate your
Not a
time.
problem.
Um, your friend Lewis speaks very highly of you. So he was a really good interview. So, you have a lot to live up to.
Yeah,
No,
he's actually excellent. He really
no,
is.
no, he was fantastic. You are, there's certain guests that come along on the show that it's very hard to find a starting point with
Mm.
with your life. So I guess my first question is to you is also if you can in the answer kind of explain your background for the audience who might not have an total idea of you know who you are. But I wanted to know like at what age did you realize like maybe your childhood was a little different than your classmates or friends and whatnot? When did it occur to you that hey, I'm in a pretty unique situation here, and we'll kind of get into it as you talk here.
Yeah, so for me, it was when I saw other families, like if I went to a friend's house or and I saw how their family operated, that the dad lived with them, and that he was actually interested in his kids and what they were doing during the day, and they'd ask questions and all that, and I'd be like, oh, that's so. In one respect, I realized pretty young. I'd have to say I was in even before grammar school, like grade maybe four, fourth grade. I started to understand that yeah, my life is different than others. Um, there's a lot of secrecy. There's a lot of um, and of course, my dad didn't live with us. Now, I was probably about a year and a half when he left.
Okay.
And so, in some aspects, it was normal because he was never there, So
Right.
I did know kids who didn't have fathers, like they were divorced, the mother and father were divorced and all that. But I knew my situation was unique because that wasn't the case with my mom and dad, right? So there was a piece of me that always asked, why does he need to go and live with my grandmother, right?
Hmm.
And the other piece was like, oh, well, this is a normal thing because it's always been this way.
Now, was your mom like also kind of protecting you from what was going on and what he was doing, or was she, or did she have a angst towards him and didn't want him involved with you?
Um, I would have to say she was very protective of me
Hmm.
in in many ways, and protective of herself, I think, as well, in the sense that it was easier when he wasn't around because when he started to really come up in that world, it was harder and harder for him to be dad, to be her husband, to be, because he was, you got to remember that when the family in the street came first, because it had to for many reasons, including protecting us, right? He had
Right.
to make sure he knew all eyes, all hands on deck, that, everything was in its place and all of that. Um, so I can't even imagine being in his skin, having to once you choose that world, what it would be like to have to look over your shoulder constantly, never being able to really go anywhere or do anything enjoyable, So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was a combination of my mom, it was easier for us to live that way, even though part of her didn't want that. The other part was like much better. He was, he could be moody at times, and I guess rightfully so looking back now because, he was handling way too much, including a whole nother family
Yeah.
that he had,
Hmm.
with
Hmm.
another woman. So, we're talking three families having to take care of. So
Yeah.
it was a lot.
I know you talked about a lot. You don't ask questions for him. You found out when you were 16. Before you got to that age and finding out, were you trying to pry with like your mother and family, or were you kind of content on, I don't want to know what's going on over here?
No, I wanted to because I had a lot of anxiety growing up, not knowing what was going on and, listening to the whispers and having the phone off the hook and, watching him around my grandmother's table at years old, passing notes and, people whispering in his ear. And you knew he commanded the room. You knew he was, you know, you knew he owned what he was doing, right? There was no questioning that piece. It was, what exactly does he do? And then you get thrown things like, oh, he worked in a hat company, or, he did this or he did that. Like it was just like, none of it made sense to me.
Yeah.
And there was this, I would ask my sister a couple of times, but after a while, you just know nobody's going to tell you anything.
Yep.
So it's just like, okay. So I would always have my ears and my eyes like open to see what I would get. And eventually there were things I knew, but didn't know what I knew. Yeah.
Now, did you grow up, like, what was your feelings towards your dad as you became an adult, and obviously you became more independent and learn kind of what was going, like, were you learning? I don't even know, maybe you still are learning about, things that happened in your family and what your dad was responsible for. Did you grow up like with angst towards him, or was he still dad to you? Like, did you have positive feelings about it?
I did. I had positive
Mhm.
feelings about him because there were sides of him that nobody saw but us. And he every so often, very far and few in between, he would break um, the whole facade, right?
Yeah.
And when he would do that and just relax, I saw my dad, right? Whether it would be, he would smile, because when he smiled, it just lit up the room. He was very, very, charismatic in a lot of ways. And there was a gentle side to him. Growing up, I remember this gentle side to him when I was sick. He would try and help me to feel better. And so it was more confusing
Right.
because of that. There was a lot of like, well, he's this way, but he's this way, and he's this way, and he's this way. And, of course, at that age, I don't know that he, uh, gives the command for people to get hurt or to be killed, or, any of that. I'm just looking at him in awe, in the sense of, yes, there's something to be feared here, because you can see that in other people, they feared him. And then you can see the whole respect side
Mhm.
of him, right? That people respected him. Um, and then this gentle side of him that I witnessed a few times, or the side that he would laugh, or, watch a regular movie, and just be hanging out, kind of. He didn't break the facade for too long, but when he did, it was just a beautiful thing.
When were you at the age of acceptance? Like, like, okay, that
Oh,
was, or
yeah. So
do
I
you
went
ever
through the
find that
whole,
age?
yeah, I went through the whole gamut of
Hmm.
anger, rage, like even with my mother, because I couldn't understand why she would put up with his shit,
Hmm.
Yeah.
especially when, I knew what was going on once she told me about the other family and everything. So I went through all of that, but I probably in my 30s did I come full circle and able to accept him and my mom and the situation and forgive it. Because I really had to see him as just a human being. Like I couldn't see him as that facade,
Yeah.
or a gangster, or um, I just needed just to see him as a person. Like I needed to put myself in his shoes and say, well, if I had made this choice, and maybe he felt there was no choice at the time, I don't know, right? Um, I think he knew once he was in, he was in. But I remember distinctly him coming to me and saying, this is when he passed, coming to me and saying, I had one option at one point to get out. But he knew when he made the choice, that was it. He was in for good. So once he knew that, it was, you know, it was forward motion, and there was no going back at that point. Um, he felt good about being able to protect the family. He felt good about having that power. I mean, for him, money came and went. It was a symbol. It wasn't necessarily um, about making $1 million, because he dropped 50 grand in one day and make up 150 in the neck. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It
Yeah.
wasn't, it was more about the power. And I really had to understand like where he was coming from. Once I was able to do that, um, I had to forgive him, but even forgive myself for judging him, you know, because I don't know what he, you know, initially I wasn't privy of how, what he went through and the pain that he was in and all of that. So that was a huge, huge cathartic
Hmm.
healing for me.
Hmm. Once you found out about who he was, I'm kind of curious, what was the hardest thing to kind of like get through? Because I know he faked his schizophrenia to kind of try to push away any kind of legal items. You told a
Yeah.
story about being under a bed and hearing a man getting beaten to death. And what was the thing where you're just like, oh my God, what I'm into?
It was definitely him faking the whole schizophrenia thing. Because when he did feel like they were getting close, he would check himself in, you know, to St. Vincent's in Harrison, New York for 3 weeks at a time. And we would have to go, you know, and
Oh,
we would
wow.
have to spend time there.
Yeah.
And I was 19 years old, you know. For people that don't know, I am a psychic medium
Mhm.
healer with a very, very sensitive energy. So I'm an empath, they call it. I could pick up on everything in these places and everyone. And we were on that third floor with the people that were really sick, that had schizophrenia, that had bipolar, that had dissociative disorders. And so for me, it was kind of like, oh, how could you make a mockery out of these people who are really suffering, you know, in this world? And what would happen to me is I would go in, I'd get bombarded by the energies, and within 10 minutes of being there, I'd be asleep.
Wow.
They'd
Huh.
actually have to wake me up because I just couldn't handle it. It was a lot.
So yeah, you kind of segued into some other things I want to talk about. So this spiritual side to you, this medium side to you, when did you first kind of become in tune with these feelings and whatnot? And two, as you help people release blockages and things that are, you know, they're unpacking, did you also have to, or were you able to kind of use that to unpack some of your trauma that you went through? Like it's kind of a two-part question, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So I knew at a very young age that that I was feeling these things. I just didn't know what it meant.
Okay.
I didn't know that you know, claircognizant meant I could I knew things I didn't know that I knew. Clairsentient meant I could feel everything around me. But I sometimes it was mine, sometimes it was my mother, sometimes it was another family member. So I couldn't differentiate when I was younger, and nobody in my family, and even at that time, understood that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
you know, what were they going to do? So what happened was I ended up with a lot of anxiety and panic attacks because of it. Okay. As I grew up, probably I want to say in my teens, especially in high school, I had this knowing about things that I didn't know how I knew, right? Events, things that would happen, things in people's lives that I could see that would happen, all of that. And then in my 20s, when I went to massage school and I put my hands on people, then I really knew I had some kind of gift because I could feel what was going on in their bodies.
Huh.
And then the
Mm.
body would like talk to me and say, okay, you know, the kidneys are being disrupted because there's a lot of, um, you know, fear in the body because so the emotions directly relate to the physical body. So fear relates to your kidneys. Liver is anger, frustration, and rage, right? So wherever I was taken to the body, I would hear, okay, this is why this is happening. And then I would go in and I would allow spirit to come through me and clear that energy. Now, the part where it started to release for me was maybe someone came in with the same experience. And I don't mean having a dad who was the boss of a crime family. I mean, like, feeling like, you know, their throat was blocked because they were suppressed as a child, or they were a woman in the family that was suppressed, right? They would come in with this stuff and it would directly connect with me because that's what I was feeling. as I was releasing their stuff, I could release some of my own.
Huh.
But the flip side is every time I released my own shit, I had more energy to help others with their stuff.
Hmm.
So every time I cleared me, like forgave and let go, I had a ton more energy to help others.
How do you like go about like? Is there a point at the beginning where you're saying, "Am I just crazy?" Like, like when you
Yeah, there
until you
was.
can, yeah, like, am I just imagining this? Like, when does it actually like become a real moment for you? Is it that first time you do it for somebody else?
Yes,
No.
it really was where I got confirmation from somebody that what I was saying was actually the truth.
Yeah, because if
How
Mike
did you
told me
know
he
that?
could heal me with his hand, I would run the other way. Like,
Right.
like I feel like
Give
it
me a
takes a
shot,
lot.
buddy. Give me a shot.
Yeah, I
Amazing.
think that along the way, building a trust with people that used to come to me for massage and then slowly moving into the energetic healing part of it, my name just got out there that this is what I did, and people were having positive experiences from it.
Huh.
And so it just built and built and built over time.
Do you ever think the massage thing was like subtly calling you to that? I don't know. Like there
It
has
was
to,
interesting
you know.
because I worked initially I was a personal trainer.
Mhm.
I worked for a chiropractor and I would run the gym that he had. And then he said to me, "Do you want to learn massage therapy?" Because all of his people in there were massage therapists. And he says, I could, kind of like move you up if you had that underneath your. I had no idea what it was going to bring me,
Yeah.
but I was like, you know what? Maybe I should do this. And that was the next thing that kind of set it all in motion.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like if it was like subtly calling you to open this up. You never know.
Yeah. Well, there are no mistakes, right? There's no coincidences. There's always a reason for everything. And I really feel like when I look back, I was like, wow, they really like my course was laid out for me. As long as I was open to it, I just got moved to each section of it that needed to get me here.
You kind of brought up something interesting as you like a lot of people think people get spirituality, they say it comes out of trauma. I'm kind of curious, do you feel like if dad was a hat maker and it was a regular life, you would have still got these capabilities? And on the flip side, as you grew up like very Catholic and all, did you have to like push away everything like that to fully get
Yeah, the
merged?
Catholic piece, especially because it was so rooted in creating fear.
Oh yeah.
And keeping
Mm-hmm.
people like in a box, and if you don't do this, and if you don't do this, and there's going to be a penalty, or you'd have to, you'd be cursed with, not going to heaven and all of that. It was all fucking nonsense and never felt right to me from day one. At a very young age, I never understood it. And it was a dichotomy because in one breath it was, we have this vengeful God, be careful because, he could strike you down. In the next breath it was, we have an all-loving God that forgives everything and everybody goes to heaven, right?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
so coming through that was me deciding this is bullshit and this I'll take with me because it feels good. And the only thing that felt good to me was love. Like I understood it. I was like, yep, love, forgiveness, redemption, like all of it. I get it. And the more I delved into that piece of it, the more spiritual stuff came to me, the more my psychic abilities opened, the more I was able to connect with what I call source or love, right? Some people call it God, some people call it whatever it is they want, but it's certainly not a man on a throne, kind of wielding his power over everyone. So yeah, that I had to come through that full circle, and I did. Um, and so when people ask me what I practice today, I said I'm just spiritual, and I believe in, I believe in the light. I believe in love. That's it.
Well,
Um, Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say like you, not only coming out of the family that you came out of, the childhood you had, but you also came out as gay in a conservative, mafia entrenched Catholic family. Like, I'm curious the strength it took to do that, and was the reaction from dad or the family uh as bad as the fear might have been, to keep that inside for so long? Because you have a lot of things that went against kind of traditional family Catholic
Mhm.
upbringing.
Yeah, this was a major moment at 19 to finally decide I'm going to tell my mom and dad, because I was getting sick a lot. And the reason why was because I couldn't live my truth. I couldn't speak my truth. I had
Right.
a lot of, upper respiratory infections because of it. And I said, I'm just tired of it. I'm gonna do it. And I did it. And the reaction from dad was the total opposite of what I thought, but I knew that that wasn't a good thing. Like he was like, "Oh, it's okay. You're just going through a phase. Everybody
Uh,
goes through it, Um, you'll get married, you'll have children, blah, 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 the whole thing."
yeah.
And like in that moment, my stomach just started to turn, and I'm like, "Oh God, if I don't agree with this, I'm
Mm.
screwed 6 ways to Sunday here." You know how you just know, right? So I just agreed with it, and I left the room trembling. And then at the age of 24, I came to my mother and I said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Tell him, don't tell him, whatever you want to do. Now, my mom was very accepting in the sense that the only fear she had was someone hurting me because of it,
Hmm.
or something happening because it went against the religion that she grew up with. And so in the end, she made peace with it. She loved my wife when she was here. Um, and she she was the one that really I wanted to for her to know and for her to be okay before she left here.
Hmm.
That was my concern. Um, but I couldn't anymore. I just couldn't do it.
I'm
And once
curious,
that happened, like it's like my whole world opened up after that.
have you ever dealt with like through your healing with other people, helping them like release this and come out and whatever, either it's self-acceptance or acceptance from family? Like, has that situation ever happened with you too?
Always.
Nice.
Anything that I've experienced from childhood to now, someone has experienced that has come to
Mm-hmm.
me. And those are the people that I get, because I've been through it, because I've come across the other side of it, because I have tools that can help them. So Spirit sends me all those people, which I'm completely grateful for.
How do you strengthen your capabilities out of curiosity? Do you have like certain like meditation exercises? Do you do certain things, or is it like what you started with is what you have? What goes on from
No,
here?
no, no. You can strengthen them. And that's through, like you said, meditation, journaling. And it's not necessarily the meditation everybody thinks, where you have to like lay down for an hour. You could do a walking meditation. You can do mantras, like where you're repeating things over and over and get yourself into that space. You could do hypnosis to get into that space. Multiple. Music, for me, music gets me there immediately. I can just close my eyes, listen to what's going on, and tune right into spirit. It's kind of like when you tune into a radio station, or a TV that had an antenna, right? There's a
Mhm.
certain frequency that it has that you need to tune into in order to see the picture or listen to the station. It's the same thing. I'm just tuning into that frequency to listen to whatever they're broadcasting to me.
Um, so in interviews you've mentioned like spiritual conversations with your father after his passing, which now is 20, a little over 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, in these conversations, like, is it like concrete answers and whatnot? Is it a feeling like,
Yeah.
Oh
does
yeah,
he
he's talking.
express regret? Like you can actually like get
Hear
a
him.
clear mess. Okay. So what
Yeah.
does he express to you?
So in the beginning, initially, that's how I knew I could do this mediumship stuff. From when before my dad, right before my dad died, what I was a healer and a psychic, right?
Hmm.
When he died and he was able to come to me, that's when I knew I could do mediumship. Okay.
Mm.
So he came to me first with um immediately with like complete sorrow and this feeling of I can't believe like it went that far. In other words, like I should have been able to open up my heart, my mind. Like I was stuck in, he was stuck in his ego. He was stuck in the whole, what it would look like to have a daughter that was gay in this world. So he came in immediately apologizing, immediately asking for forgiveness, not for him, but for me, like for me to be able to forgive so I wouldn't have to carry anything, which I had already done. But when you're healing, there's layers to things, right? So you
Sure.
heal one layer, maybe you're only ready for that one layer. This was another layer when he came. This was like a very deep layer once he came and he spoke to me and asked if he could work with me um, whenever a client would need his energy. Now, I've had many, many come to me that either knew him, knew of him. I've had people reach out to me that were in jail with him that would tell me about him. Um, all kinds of people, and those that would want to go into that life, and he steered them in a different direction in the reading. So he what he did was when he asked me if he could do this, um, he really just wanted to help me. But what it was doing for him was it was clearing up his karma that he created here. And I
Sure.
said, well, if we can get those two things done, we're in good shape. So I said, yep, absolutely. I said, let's do it. There was so when he came to me, he came like a bull in a china shop to get my attention. But then after like a couple of months, his energy completely changed. And it was like when I was a kid and he was trying to help me when I was sick. There was this gentle, gentle energy to him. And he could talk to me forever if he wanted to. Um, and I would say to him, my God, for having 10 words exchanged between us every time we saw each other when he was alive, this was like a book, like he just kept going and going.
Making up for lost time.
Yeah, 100%.
So when people ask you about your father, do you feel it's a new answer? Do you still say this was dad here? This is now where I feel about him, or can you distinguish the
Absolutely.
two, or do you find the
100%.
one?
100%. I'd say this was my dad when he had his ego attached to him. This is my dad without his ego and only love connected to him. And so there are people that go, you're full of shit. You can't talk to your father, right? Because that's how some people are. And other people are fascinated by the fact that I can speak to him and they have questions. Some have questions for him and he'll answer anything and everything. He does not necessarily love to talk about that life any longer, but he will engage if someone asks.
Well, it's funny because my last question here for you was, you personally, do you get sick of like dopes like us being like, oh, we love to talk to you about, like your dad. So much of it is rooted in your dad and the figure your dad was. Do you ever like just want to be separated from that, or are you like, well, this is an intriguing thing and you understand why people want to talk to you about it?
Oh, I know everybody's fascinated by that life and
Mhm.
and him and the whole thing. For me, it's I got to be honest with you guys. For me, it feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
sure.
saying?
Yeah.
Like just because I'm just in a different place, a different person. And everybody that, what do I want to say? Everybody that grows, right? That learns lessons and grows here, they're not the same person they were 20 years ago,
Yeah.
right? So it's like a different life now for me, but I totally get it and I honor it because those people aren't there yet. They love the glamour of it. They love
Yeah.
that piece of it. But and then when they hear that it really wasn't all glamour, then they're like, oh shit. Oh yeah. Didn't think of it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rita, I want to thank you so much for your time. An absolutely fascinating person, and love to have you on in the future to talk more about.
Anytime, honey.
Um,
Anytime.
I guess my last thing for you is, one, if people are interested in your work, in your healing, they
Sure.
hear this interview, they go, hey, this might be the person for me. Where can they go? And two, I have a question about your wife. it is it hard for her? Like, does she always think you're like feeling all her thoughts and can tell what she is? She like, come on, like stop. Just, like, I'm curious
No,
what it's like
because
being married to a medium.
right. So it's fun. You're not the first person to ask me that. But I can tell you this, no, because I can turn it off.
Gotcha.
So I'm not walking around the house on all the
Yeah.
time. Like I really want to enjoy life too,
Yeah.
right? So when I go out to dinner or the supermarket or whatever, I always say to Spirit, unless it's an absolute emergency, please let me just be. Let me just be and not
Yeah.
have to worry about connecting. And they're very good about that. They really are. So no, she's not. If anything, she's saying to me, "What do you feel? What do you feel? You feel anything about this?" So
Because my wife always thinks she knows what I'm thinking, and she has no idea.
ah, gotcha, gotcha. What was the other question?
Where can people go and
Oh
get
yeah.
in touch with you
So
and check you out?
yep. So they can get me at ritagigante.net. It's my website, and you can go on and book whatever you want. My book is also on there, and it's also on Amazon. And of course, I'm all over social media, so they can find me anywhere on social media. Yeah.
My final question for you. Love your story from your early days to your spiritual side, but I have to confront you on something I heard in an interview. I can't accept this.
Okay.
Your father was one of the biggest guys in the mafia, and you never saw him eat pasta once.
I did not.
That it.
I
Scott,
did
end
not.
the interview.
And
End
if
it.
and
No,
if he
can't accept
did,
it.
if he did, I wasn't witness to it because you have to understand, at a certain point in time, Dad changed his whole diet because of his heart. There were only
No.
certain things he would eat, and he was OCD. So, it would be this, it would be this, it would be this. When I was younger, or when my brothers and sisters were younger, I'm sure he ate everything. He was 300 pounds at one time.
Yeah.
350, like hot dogs and hamburgers and all kinds of shit. I'm sure pasta was in there. I just don't like, even when we sat down for like Christmas, I never saw him eat the lasagna.
Yeah.
Never saw him eat it.
Yeah.
He would completely go to something my mother made, or I never even seen him eat my grandmother's food unless someone brought it in. Like, and she used to make a steak. This is really funny. She used to make a steak, one of his steaks, on the actual burner, not in a pan, on the burner,
Wow. Straight on the burner. Nice.
straight on the burner. And I would just look like, what the fuck?
Cleanup must have been interesting.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
I cannot even. And of course, she wasn't cleaning it. We were, right? So it was, yeah, I know a lot of people ask me that now that they came out in the interview. They're like, how is that even possible? I go, maybe when he was younger, but I don't remember
You
it
make a
ever.
good point. You never heard anybody say like the mob diet is the way to get healthy. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's a sure way to a heart attack.
Yeah. Rita, thank you so much. Good
No,
luck with
thank
everything you
you.
got going on, and we'd love to have you back in the future.
100%, hon. I appreciate it. Thank you.